So what was it that inspired you to take up this task of creating a new edition of Spurgeon's sermons? What did you find lacking in what was available out there right now, and what are you hoping to do with this new edition?
Yeah, so when I was going through and doing, for a year, I went through and did like these Pilgrim Digest magazines, and they were kind of just like, you know, a, a little quasi fractional sword and trowel type edition that we did for a year. And one day, Lord willing, I'd love to get back to those. That was one of the most fun things, was to be able to go through and pull, a diverse amount of, whether it be sermons, articles, sections from, this Puritan's book, sections from, this guy's stuff, and put them in a little monthly magazine. Was just a lot of fun. But that's when I was going through and really working on some of his sermons and trying to get them transcribed correctly. And then that's when you do that for a year straight, then it starts to kind of stick out that, number one, there are some errors in the originals. They were weekly penny pulpits, so they're getting them out and trying to sell them for a penny.
Yeah.
This is not an, triple edited general editor kind of project where they're going to go through and really nail everything down. I mean, now largely considering the time period, it was, it was well done, but there's sometimes you had ink not laying down. I've had several of like the original issues of the original volumes of the pulpit books. I've got multiples of some of the same years, and can go in and certain sermons you can find the ink laid down differently on all three or four of them. So you get inconsistencies there that were not necessarily. It's not that they made an error or left something out, but that just in the printing process sometimes it didn't always come through right. But then you did have some errors. You do have to remember that these are kind of transcribed based on speech. They are not intended to be a polished literary work. So so when you combine kind of those things and you see some of those errors, and then you go with what we have, with what there is out on the web, there's always a lot of Spurgeon material out on the web. But when you go out there and you start comparing that to originals, then we really see the deficits of any digital material that we've got out there. Some pretty good, not a whole lot. Others, I mean, I've run into entire sentences missing. I mean, one and two sentences completely just not even out there in some of these text, groupings that are out there online. And so, yeah, when you go from looking at an original and trying to transcribe that, and then you're looking at what is already out there, and then you go, okay, well, this is nice because it's digital, it's easier to read, but then you start comparing that with the original, and you go, okay, now these are just, in some cases way off. Not enough to where I would say somebody should not feel confident that they're going to understand largely what he's getting at. But, coming from somebody who is trying to quote things in magazines, is trying to have a full sermon, and when you want something correct, when you read something, even in a sermon that's profound, and you go, hey, I want to pull that paragraph. Well, if you're like me, I want to make sure that paragraph is actually right, and want to have some kind of confidence that it's right and that something didn't get transcribed wrong. And for the most part, a lot of the older works with the text base that we do have out there in a variety of forms. Sometimes there's multiple different folks who have tried to kind of do their best to copy it and get the material out there. A lot of it was done by OCR, text recognition from scanning, and it's so hard. They just, even the really good equipment does not pick up all that older, smaller, kind of less defined font, and it can really make a mess out of it. And so it just depends how much time somebody went back and cleaned it up. And again, there's a reason that these sermons, since they finished in 1917, at least the official kind of set, so to speak, that Passmore and Alabaster printed, there's a reason they've never been retypeset. It's just a bulky endeavor, right? It's 63 volumes. It's over
Yeah.
3,500 and however many. I didn't know that I had the number on my head the other day. But you know, you're talking almost going on 3,600 sermons. Even in the original pages, you're talking 8 to 10. A lot of times they were 8, but 8 to 10. Sometimes they would go 12 if they were longer. I mean, what are you talking? 35,000 pages worth of, so it's just a lot of work. It's something
Yeah.
that is going to be um, a long term labor, and but in going through it, in having kind of built a Spurgeon collection and going through a lot of the material, it just has wound up being something that you go, you know what, we need to have a good, solid, fresh
Yeah.
text for people to use going forward. I love originals. I've got a set of like the Pilgrim publication reprints. Um, love using them. Love looking at them. I always have them here on my desk. So certainly no qualm there, and I don't intend to replace the kind of the position that they would hold for the enthusiast or the Spurgeon collector. But I do think it's 2023, and
Yeah.
so I think it's kind of time to kind of start moving that direction, and it really opens up the door for a lot of opportunities once you digitize text for uh, even for pulling stuff, for indexing, for search capabilities, for any kind of new com you know printing combinations of pulling certain sermons
Right.
out. Just makes everything easier, and I think it will open up kind of some doors for new kind of material, or just more particular material to be able to come out and be utilized from people. Makes it gives a lot of opportunity for that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And then for the reader, I mean, it's going to be a much better experience than the teeny tiny, kind of smudgy, blurry Victorian font that you might have if you have a copy of, one of the volumes of his sermons. So, really looking forward to the project as it comes out.